Hey guys, we are now into week 4. So we are diving into one of my absolute favorite topics when we get into English and learning how to write a great argument paper, and that is rhetoric. So I'm not sure what your background is with rhetoric, but we're going to just cover simply the basics this week. And we're going to dive into ways that we can analyze how messages are constructed and put together to persuade us or convince us to either buy something or believe something. And this comes in pretty handy in academia for a couple of reasons. First, we need to use discernment when we come across other types of arguments and persuasions that are around us. We can use this in our normal everyday life, but in academia, we really want to learn to think critically about the messages that are coming before us. Now, we did a little bit of practice with our last essay with protest music, where we kind of dive in and we look at a song we might have listened to 100 times before without really thinking about it. And then we go back and we start analyzing those lyrics and realizing, the message here is quite a bit deeper than I might have realized at first. The song is trying to persuade me to believe something or to see a problem with something or to correct a problem with something. And so that's the first step really with any type of analysis and any type of good critical thinking, is to slow down for a minute and go back and see, what is being said? So once we get past the what is being said, I want to take us up to a little bit higher of a notch with our critical thinking, and that is essentially asking us, how is this being said? So let's dive in a little bit here into what we're going to be doing this week. I'm going to start us off right down here with our readings, the readings that you need to do for the week. You can kind of see, I don't know how many of you guys have seen this pretty infamous meme going around with LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and Tinder. This is Dolly Parton's take on the ways that we kind of change messages around. We use our selfies and our profile pictures to really kind of sell a certain side of us. And most of you guys are really familiar with this without probably thinking, how or why. But this is an important step when we're looking at rhetoric, because the first step we're going to see here is that you really can't swap out completely, the images here. Like, for example, I probably wouldn't want to use the Tinder photo here of Dolly in a bunny costume for a LinkedIn profile. It's the wrong audience, and that's probably not going to get me the real job that I want to have. So, it's targeting a wrong audience, which is something to consider with writing and also with rhetoric. But what is she trying to say about herself in the LinkedIn, and how is she trying to do this? Same thing with Facebook. We generally have a little bit of a different aim on Facebook than we do on Instagram. So Instagram is really that whole, hey, let's go viral, living your best life kind of thing going here. Tinder is really generally looking for some certain type of engagement or attention, and it's really not going to work so much on your Instagram. It's not going to look on your Facebook where your mom and your grandma are also on your page. And it certainly won't work in LinkedIn. So let's keep in mind one of the first steps when we're moving forward with rhetoric is audience. And we're actually going to work on this quite a bit. Your second paper is asking you to take some of these ideas together and to work them into a compare and contrast essay. So hang on to that thought, but I want to get in here. You're going to see, I do have, a couple readings I have for you here on rhetoric, and you can see in the very first one, I'm defining certain rhetorical appeals that I really want to make sure that you understand. So once you're finished with the PowerPoint and you want to go back, and review these terms, I have those there under, why does it matter? It is really important. But let's go ahead and start right here with this PowerPoint so that I can walk you through the rhetorical appeals, and why they matter. Okay, so rhetorical appeals are the ways that how we're trying to persuade someone. And there's a lot of different things that we can talk about with rhetoric, but for this particular course, I'm mostly focused on audience, which we've talked about, ethos, pathos, and logos. So let's focus on ethos, pathos, and logos. These are the three main things I want you to practice this week in the discussion board, and something that you're going to be able to take and use to critically analyze any argument that's coming your way. So first of all, rhetoric is really just the art of using language to persuade, influence beliefs, and or achieve a desired purpose. And you might be wondering why you need to learn this. Well, it's simply because rhetoric is all around us. It's in our politics, it's in our advertising, and it's in our everyday life. You can't go buy a car. You can't even walk into Sam's Club without someone there trying to stop you. Can I ask you a question? They don't want to ask you a question. They want to start persuading you. They're starting a conversation to get you to buy whatever it is or win the free little knife or prize that they're handing out. So they're immediately starting in with persuasion, and you need to learn to look right through it, because chances are you have a knife in your drawer and you really don't need it. And it's probably not the best one anyway. So let's continue. So another thing here is we can become more attentive and discerning about the different types of conversations that are going on around us. This means you're not going to buy into every political debate that you see. Hopefully you don't buy into all the really terrible ones that are happening on social media. And you'll be able to keep a little bit more money in your pocket and hopefully keep a little bit of sanity. The next thing is you learn, what types of rhetoric are really good and convincing and which types are really just empty talk. And we'll look at that a little bit. And I have some examples. When we get through some of the basics of this PowerPoint, go ahead and download it onto your computer when we get to the end, and you're going to see some examples, some commercials and advertisements that are using different types of rhetoric. And I kind of want you to play around with it a little bit. There's the Sarah McLachlan one, with the sad little animals and all these different types of things. So we want to be able to look at it and to learn to strip away and see, okay, what is effective and what is not effective. So good rhetoric will also help you to not only discern those types of arguments around you, but will help you to turn and use them yourselves in your own writing. So I'm looking for great persuasion. As a matter of fact, today I got a text, like probably most of you guys, about politics and trying to persuade me to, join in with this certain type of candidate. And they're saying you should tune in because Zooey Deschanel and Jason Bateman are manning our phone lines. And I responded back, as any intelligent person would, what in the world does a celebrity endorsement have to do with politics? That's not credible. So I'm looking for you to start diving into something a little bit deeper. We want credibility. And this is one of the things that we're going to start working with. So I'll let you come look here. We've got the history of rhetoric, Aristotle. That's just a little background here. Not the most important thing I want you to know, but I do want you to kind of see this triangle here, because this is important. So we have our logos and our pathos and our ethos, and it's forming a triangle. Now I'm going to break down what each one of these appeals mean. But, and you're going to hear me kind of denigrate a little bit here of pathos, because sometimes it can be a problem, but it can be also equally problematic if you don't use any pathos in your writing. So I'm going to tell you the best way to really knock any argument out of the park is by using all three. And this is considered the sweet spot of rhetoric. You're going to have logos, you're going to have ethos, and you're going to have pathos. So let's look right here. Let's just start breaking things down. So logos is really an appeal to logic and reason. This is your data. These are your facts. This is your dollar signs. these are really important because we can't really lie so much with logic, especially if we're doing it well. And a really good argument, especially in our class, and if you're in science classes and history classes, you want to make sure that you have specific logic, real reasons that have facts and statistics or dates to persuade your reader. Here's our pathos. Here's Otis. Otis is really sad, and apparently we can just open a Coke and open happiness. So I'm not sure why we need therapists or anything, but this is essentially an appeal to emotion. And you can remember pathos is kind of the root word for pathetic. Now, I told you I was going to kind of pick on it a little bit. I see often in a lot of our, rhetoric today is we're appealing so much to emotion that it becomes a little scary. It could be based on fear, to fit in, to be good enough, to be beautiful, to be happy, to save the world, to save the puppy, save Otis. I don't know. But it lacks the logic. And sometimes we buy things emotionally, but I, would caution that emotions sometimes aren't real. We can tap into them pretty well. For example, I don't know about you guys, but if I go see a shark movie, which I love to watch in the movie theater, I'm sitting here in Central Texas in the middle of a movie theater. It's dark, and on the screen there is a giant shark and he's lunging out, and I jump, right? And so there's this scare thing. I'm kind of afraid of the shark in the water, which is ridiculous because I'm 4 hours away from the nearest ocean. There's no shark, but they have tapped in to my emotions. Now, it's super effective in a movie. The same thing with any horror movie. They can terrify me where I have to leap into my bed because I don't want anything underneath it to grab me. So it's appealing to my emotions, certainly not my logic. I know there's no shark in the movie theater, and I know there's no boogeyman hiding underneath my bed. But if you can tap well into an emotion, you certainly can get a reaction from your reader or from your audience. But the trick here is learning to know when you're being emotionally manipulated. So keep this in mind when you're going through other arguments and you can think, this is particularly useful with any ex-boyfriends or girlfriends. I would say learn to discern emotion. All right. So the next thing here is ethos. This is an appeal to credibility and character. So sometimes you're going to see advertisements use a celebrity. Same with the little text I got just a little while ago telling me that I should buy into this political candidate because some movie stars happen to endorse them. And that's ridiculous. But I'm going to ask you to do something a little bit better, and that is to find actual, real, credible speakers to validate your claims. So what I mean by this is if I'm going to argue anything scientific, I better have a scientist. If I'm going to talk about psychology, I need to have a psychologist. So we want to make sure we're finding experts. If I'm giving a film review, I can give a great film review, and then I'm going to go back and find an actual film scholar that's going to back up my position and lend my paper even more credibility. If you're writing a paper in history, find a historian to lend your paper credibility. This is super, super important. We did a little bit with our first debate when we were talking about whether or not we should censor material. And this always gets into the conversation of First Amendment and whether that First Amendment, can help us to understand this idea. That's so important because bringing up the idea of the First Amendment and understanding it and using it appropriately gives you credibility. You're not just going by how you feel about a topic. You're saying, here is the law, right? That's so much stronger and so much better. So if you can back up your argument with those kinds of documents, then you are building credibility. All right, so these are the little things I want you to watch. This is a little bit long. It's about 8 minutes, The Art of Rhetoric, but boy, it gets kind of funny towards the end. So the first, couple minutes might be a little dry, but please watch it because you're definitely going to learn something. It'll help you to understand. Then I have some little things here where you can kind of practice and see whether something is logos, pathos, or ethos. And I'll put a little Kahoot game up also for you guys. These are really great fun. My kids know this. I teach them at a very early age. As soon as they start debating or trying to beg or persuade me, I let them know very quickly how to do so effectively. They know that pathos does not generally work so well on me, so they better come back with a little bit of logic, and they might need to find some credibility. So this can be a lot of fun. You'll have a lot more fun on Facebook when you go through and you're thinking, oh, no, that's emotional, that's emotional, that's emotional. And you really start to see how all of these things come together. Some of the greatest rhetorical appeals out there right now are memes. So look at the memes and see how you are engaging with it and how you're responding to it. And that'll be a great start. So hopefully you're understanding rhetoric a little bit here and it's making some sense to you. This is really quite a bit of fun. So when you are done playing around here with rhetoric and you feel kind of solid about what each of these appeals mean, I have a letter from Martin Luther King Jr. and it's called A Letter from a Birmingham Jail. This was written in the 1960s. And I have a little background PowerPoint. So if you're not familiar with this document, you can look into it. But I choose this one because I think he simply just does an outstanding job using all three rhetorical appeals. That can be really hard to find in our documents today. So I want you to read this letter. It is outstanding, and great writers learn to be great writers by reading other great writers. And Martin Luther King essentially is one of our great writers, and this is in the canon of American literature. So go ahead and read this, and what you're going to do for the discussion post this week is you're going to break it down, and you're going to find where does he use logos, where does he use pathos, and where does he use ethos. And he uses them in several ways. So you're not going to be limited to only one option looking through there. So I suggest getting 3 different highlighters, printing this text out, and having one color for ethos, one for pathos, and one for logos, and seeing if you can't maybe pull that together. So put those examples up just so I know that you understand these 3 rhetorical appeals. And then you're going to start working into your next essay. So your next essay is going to be a 5-paragraph essay. And if you haven't worked on one of those in a while, I have some outlined here, basically how to get through the 5-paragraph essay. If you're struggling with introductory paragraphs, I break that down a little bit more for you here. And then academic paragraphs, which are absolutely my favorite to teach, because most people tend to struggle a little bit with coming up with ideas. So I'm thinking, here's a basic outline of how you do one of those body paragraphs. You're going to make a claim, and remember that claim needs to back up your thesis statement, which we covered last week. You're going to define what you mean or make a concession in that second sentence. You're going to use textual evidence to support your claim. Remember how we did this with our protest essay? We want to keep doing that. Explain how that evidence supports your interpretation. So why did you pick out this claim in the first place, right? Why is this textual evidence somehow matching your claim? And then you're just going to conclude your paragraph, right? I give you an example here. Here's one that I wrote on looking for Alaska, and I was writing about how this was a compelling example of adolescent literature. Sometimes it can be a little bit longer. You don't have to be stuck to 5 sentences in your paragraph. So here's one that I did on Huckleberry Finn. And then here's another one that I don't have any quotations, but I use evidence in another fashion. And here I'm talking about Beverly Hillbillies and the ways that we kind of denigrate Southerners in our pop culture. So you can check over these examples and kind of see what an academic paragraph looks like as you start putting yours together. And that will help you as you start writing this essay that you're going to do. So let me come back over here just a little bit. So those are all the readings that you need to do. Now you're writing, you're getting into your next essay. And so I'm going to post the directions for your essay, but you can see right here, I have you divided up into groups. And this means that you're going to start working in groups. You're going to have really essentially 2 posts this week. You're going to have your individual post here in Letter from a Birmingham Jail, where we're working on rhetoric and those rhetorical appeals. And then you're going to find your group that you're in, and you should only see the group that you're assigned to on your page. You're going to see I have all of them because I can engage with each of you. And you're going to work together on this next essay. So hopefully your group project will encourage you guys to come together as a team and develop some teamwork skills. I know most of our jobs today ask us to collaborate and work together, so we're going to get a little practice with that. I know it gives some of you guys anxiety to work together as a team, but I'm hoping maybe you can work together and come up with ideas of who's going to work with a particular paragraph in this essay, and to come together. So, you know, I'm going to grade you on your effort that you do here. So if you're not participating at all in your group, and your name is on this final paper, I can see the work that you're submitting in each of your discussion posts and in the lockers that you're going to have for sharing. If you're not participating, you're not going to earn as high of a grade. So those of you that are working really hard together, you're going to earn a pretty good, decent grade. And keep in mind, I'm coming in here also and giving you guys feedback. I'm not going to lead you guys alone. I'm going to give you good direction to make sure that you're answering these questions. But you can see, you know, you're going to be writing about selfies as rhetoric. Anytime you have questions about the assignments that you're doing or major assignments, you can always come over here in the content under major assignment directions. And you can scroll down and you can see right here, here's essay assignment 2, compare and contrast. And you're going to see that you're going to write a 5-paragraph essay. And we're going to be working on considering, you know, how we're comparing and contrasting writing and selfies. So we have some fun things that you're going to do. First, in your group, you're going to take 5 selfies, okay? So I'm gonna let you choose 5 from this group right here and number 1, and you're gonna post them into your group. Now I'll probably take a few of these and make a PowerPoint for everybody to see, and share them on another discussion post as we're starting to put these together. But I want you to have some fun here. Get to know the people in your group and work together. When you post some of these, you're going to have 5 for me for sure, but you're going to post at least 3 of them for your discussion post. And I want you to consider some of these questions here because they're really going to help you as you start to focus on the argument for your essay. So consider, how many selfies did you take before you got to the ones that you liked best? I don't know if you're anything like me, but I'm not a one-shot, one-kill. I usually need, you know, 3 or 4 pictures before I find one I'm like, okay, well, that one's not, you know, horrifying. Then you're going to decide, you know, what kinds of decisions went into these pictures. Did you pick out an outfit? Did you change locations? Did you choose friends for a certain reason? Did you use a filter? And then consider where you might share these images. This is kind of an allusion back to our Dolly Parton meme. Is this, you know, something that's going to go viral? Is this something you could use professionally? Is this a family photo album? And consider why. And with all of this in mind, I want you to consider, are you noticing any similarities between selfies and writing? And this is hopefully the discussion that's going to lead us up to our big question for this essay. So hopefully you will get a little bit of practice here. You're going to see I'm asking you to begin writing your essay. You're going to have 5 paragraphs. There's going to be an introduction. You're going to have a thesis statement. If you can't remember how to do those, go back to last week's folder. And then you're going to have those academic paragraphs, right? Make sure we're using some good transitions. So we're going to do the same thing here. Your essay is due Friday, November 20th at 11:59. Please save it to a Word file. Those are easiest for me to grade. I hope you have a great week. If you have any questions, reach out to me. We'll have a Zoom meeting on Tuesday. We'll go over some of the grammar for the week and any other questions you might have. And hopefully you'll have some fun with the selfies. I can't wait to actually see some of you guys. Have a good week.